Hello everyone, I am LegenGary, and welcome to Break-Time. Break-Time is this new show that has been a transformation from the original QuickTime review idea that I had in Bloodborne. Now I've kind of changed it to this sort of style, so it's kind of like a mini LegenGary video for you guys, to try and get some more content out for you. And also so that you can kind of get to know my personality a bit better. I'm sorry in advance if this seems really awkward. But let's not focus on that. Let us focus on the game that we have today, which is, of course, Guacamelee!
Guacamelee! Super Turbo Championship Edition!
When I first heard of Guacamelee, I thought it was going to be some sort of indie brawl type fighting game. You know, kind of like how those are kind of popular on Steam nowadays, games that are mimicking like Smash Brothers and such. I mean, come on, with a title like Super Turbo Championship Edition, there's gotta be at least some sort of fighting element in there. But no, actually, this is a Metroidvania game. Yeah, threw me for a loop too first time I played it. But before we get to the gameplay, how about we talk about this game's story?
The story of Guacamelee is a simple one. You play as Juan, a rather normal guy living on the Agave Desert. Everything seems all good and normal for the life of Juan, until one day this guy invites you over to the town's chapel, where you meet this fine looking lady. You and her have apparently been friends for a long time, but haven't seen each other in years. She then invites you over to the mansion where she lives, and this guy from before is telling you to make your move on her. Well, aren't you the creepy one? You then find your way to the mansion and...
Boy, that escalated quickly.
Naturally, you go to the mansion to find out what's going on, and here you encounter Kalaka, the self-proclaimed ruler of Deadworld. He's kidnapped the lady from earlier as to perform some sort of ritual that will turn him into a god. Being the hero, we ain't gonna have any of that, so we're gonna fight him.
Yep, probably should have seen that one coming.
And with that, we are dead. No, seriously, we're dead. This is Deadworld. How does one enter Deadworld? They die. Ergo, we are dead. But hey, that's not going to stop us from exploring now, is it? Eventually, we find this luchador mask guarded by this lady named Tostada. She explains to us that the mask has chosen us to become its new wearer, and that we have been chosen to go and defeat Kalaka and his evil minions before they can take over the world of the living. And from here on out, it's a basic Metroidvania style game. You start as a weak character, but eventually become more powerful thanks to finding items via exploration.
But is this game a good Metroidvania game? Well, let's check out the gameplay.
First off, I've got to say, I absolutely love Metroidvania games. There's something about the progression of the character via exploration that I really love. It makes me feel good when my exploration in a game is rewarding. It makes me feel like my time in this area was well spent, rather than just being a waste of time. And Guacamelee does this concept very well. It's almost as if the developers were purposely trying to recreate the old Metroidvania style gameplay that we know from games like Super Metroid or Symphony of the Night. And while it does try to mimic these gameplay styles, the game sets itself apart from the crowd by adding its own unique style of platforming and style of gameplay. Lots of gameplay moments are broken up into these small arena-like situations where you have to fight all the enemies in order to progress forward. This happens a lot. So it's a good thing that the fighting control in this game is pretty good. You know how in Smash Brothers you can chain together different super attacks along with standard attacks? Well, Guacamelee has a similar combat style. Super moves and standard attacks can be strung together with ease, along with abilities like the grab attacks and dodges. And trust me, you'll need to string these together to defeat the various enemies that you face. Some enemies are more quicker than others, some are gigantic hulking enemies, some are in the ground, some have shields that can only be taken down by one specific move. Yeah, there's a lot of different enemies, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. And when you're not fighting enemies, you're exploring the land via some pretty intense platforming. And while it is challenging, the level design never feels cheap or unfair. Eventually you can get new abilities that can allow you to traverse the area a lot quicker. making it feel like you as a player have become more skilled at the game. Also, you can turn into a chicken. Yes, this is a thing, and I love it.
And while that is good and all, what about the presentation? How does Guacamelee hold up in this aspect?
This game takes a very similar art style of that of traditional Mexican art, while also mixing a little bit of modern cartoon styles. I personally really like it, especially from a color aspect. Everything is just so colorful and blends together rather nicely. Even when you transition to Dead World, the game is still colorful. The changing of color scheme is just enough to keep that nice blend of color throughout the game. It likewise has a nice soundtrack. Like the visuals, the soundtrack changes whenever you switch between the world of the living and the dead world. In the world of the living, it has somewhat of this nicely played Spanish theme with the music. But when you enter Dead World, the music throws in some chiptune, and it actually blends really well. The music, I feel, carries the appropriate set of atmosphere to each level you go to, which, personally, I find very awesome.
So far, this game looks pretty good. So is there anything bad about it? Well, no, not really. I mean, there are a few things that I have problems with. For instance, it only takes around a good under 5 to 6 hours to actually beat the game, which is, well, my running time of it. But that's not really a bad thing, because I didn't really go for any of the extra stuff that was in the game. And trust me, there is extra stuff. There are plenty of areas that I did not explore. But another problem I kind of have with the game is the fact that the story seems rushed in sort of places. I kind of felt like I was beating bosses way too quickly in some cases. I felt like I was progressing to the final boss like Sonic the Hedgehog on speed. I don't know what that analogy was. But in the end, I personally felt like it was fun enough to go back and play again. And most likely I'll play this again in the future. So it has a good replayability in that aspect. So, in the end, with all things considered, Guacamelee gets my approval rating of a 9 out of 10.